Another thing which often people comment upon, and perhaps you've got some war stories or thoughts upon, is obviously the difference in work ethics and culture and pace. And so, have you got any thoughts upon that? For how do Australians used to working the way they work can deal with these issues?
I've got a few. So I'll give you an example. One of my close friends at Nike, actually, he was a very, very good in the logistics area, and he used to just get frustrated. These Chinese, they never talk. These meetings are horrible. I've got 20 people in the meeting. No one says anything. I'm not going, look, you just need to work differently. When you have these meetings, you need to ask direct questions. You need to encourage people to talk. And this is a very superficial example, but Chinese will only really contribute when they feel quite comfortable there. And so most meetings, first of all, remember they're doing it in English, not in their native language. Sure. And secondly, they don't really feel confident talking in front of bosses or anything like that. What happens generally is they'll sit there, and then come out of the meeting and they go, oh, so what did we just decide? So one of the first easy things is always talking with your Chinese staff and asking them questions, asking them what they think about it, making them feel confident to express their opinion. Once you break down that wall, then there are a lot of opinions that come out. So it's a hard one for anyone who's from an Australian, Anglo-Saxon, American culture, where we're just used to talking over the top of each other and assuming that if you're not contributing, you just don't know anything. Very often, the person who knows the most in the room in China is not going to say anything, but you can pull that out of them. You can work that out of them. On the ethics side, it's a complicated one in China. I think I was very fortunate most of the time, the people that I worked with, and I just made a point of working with people who I actually fundamentally trusted and tried to keep out of, and tried to stay away from people where there were more questions or there are offers or there are things. It helps me sleep at night.
Yeah.
But there's also a different way of thinking about it, which is, I'll give you an easy example. Was we had a meeting at Nike with our global CEO and head of sales and all the rest, and the global head of sales says in this meeting is like, God, it'd be great if we knew the Adidas sales projections for the next 6 months. And our sales director for China got up, left the room, came back 15 minutes later, and gave us all the sales projection. And the global head of sales was like, that's amazing. I just looked at him and said, do you think they have our numbers? Because the one thing you need to, and this is where I think China's actually in advance of the world. The world's going this way. The Chinese, one guy explained it to me once, and he's incredibly right. This thing of the Chinese not loyal is just wrong. They're not loyal to companies, but they shouldn't be. Companies aren't loyal to them. What they are loyal to are people who are going to be important in their lives going forward. So our sales director at Nike, of course he's got a relationship with the sales guy at Adidas, because the sales guy at Adidas may one day be the general manager for Vans and may well hire him. They're all about those kind of networks.
Yeah. That's not all that much different than Australia.
Of course not. And this is the thing. People look at it and go, oh, but it's so corrupt there. And I'm like going, come back to Australia. It's in Australia we call it business.
Yeah.
In China we call it corruption. My classic example is always Bob Carr privatised the whole of New South Wales, sold most of it to Macquarie Bank, lost an election, became the board of directors of Macquarie Bank. Mm-hmm. That's just business.